Good. All right, we'll start again. Good evening, directors, staff, and members of the public joining us in person and those watching online. I know there's a couple of you. I will now call this May 29th, 2025 regular business meeting of the Twin Cities German Immersion School Board to order. We start each meeting by reflecting on our mission, vision, and values. The mission of the Twin Cities German Immersion School is the innovative education of the whole child through German immersion. Our vision is Hören, Sehen, Weltoffen Denken und Handeln, educating multilingual world citizens who hear others, see others, and think and act with an open mind. Our school values are curiosity, kindness, challenge and support, intercultural engagement, and community. At the start of each board meeting, we also take a moment to read our TCGIS land acknowledgement, which is as follows. We acknowledge and appreciate that TCGIS is located on Wakapute Dakota traditional, ancestral, and contemporary homeland near Lake Minnewaca in the land now known as Minnesota Makoche. Our presence here is linked to generations of Wakapute stewardship over their land, as well as to the historical and ongoing injustices of settler colonization that impact Indigenous people to the present day. We are committed to understanding our role in this legacy and to educating ourselves and our community about Indigenous history through continued mindfulness and engagement in and outside of the classroom. Herr Eberhard, will you please call the roll for the record?
Yes. Director Albers.
Here.
Director Heidt.
Here.
Director Larson.
Here.
Director Lindner.
Here.
Director Reich.
Here.
Director Smaka.
She's excused due to illness.
Director Tesfayesus.
He's excused due to travel.
Director Yamaya.
Also excused due to travel.
And ex officio member, Executive Director Simfenik.
Here. All right, we have a quorum, barely. So we're just gonna jump right in to our agenda for the evening. And that first action item is to approve April's meeting minutes. Can I get a motion to approve April's meeting minutes?
So moved.
All right, a second.
Second.
Thank you, Director Hyde and Director Larson. Any discussion or updates to the minutes from our last board meeting? Any corrections? All right, hearing none. April's board minutes are approved. Our second item on the agenda is to approve tonight's meeting agenda. Can I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Albers. Any discussion?
I would like to propose, if it's possible with all involved, to move it up by 1 day, if at all possible.
You'd like to propose that we move that during the new business we discussed?
Sorry,
Okay.
am I in the wrong place? But
You'd like to add an agenda item?
yes,
Perfect. And that agenda item is?
for new business to move the June board meeting to June 25th.
We will add that to our new business discussion under agenda item 11. Thank you, Director Lindner.
I would just say that Nina Maslowski will not make it tonight, so I will just probably begin the director's report at that time.
I think you maybe have an older version of the
Do I have one?
package.
This is the one.
So it's under agenda item number 6, presentation on German Immersion Task Force. Oh, sorry about that. Shoot. Okay, so I don't think we need to change there. This is not necessarily agenda, but I do just want to note that under agenda item 2, sub item D, letters to the board, I did not include the board's response to the letter that we received at the end of April, so I will be I'm sending that to Harry Eberhart to add to the agenda, but the board did respond, as did Executive Director Zankonig. So we will add that to the packet for the record. All right, all in favor of the updates to tonight's agenda as discussed, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. All right, the agenda is approved. Perfect. And that brings us to our open forum. And I think our guests here are just attending to observe and participate a little bit in the German immersion presentation. So don't think we have anyone here signed for open forum and no one online. So with that, we will close open forum for this evening and move on to our first agenda item, which is our special recognition. So I love the end of the year because we always have a lot of recognition to offer, and it's kind of fun. See, perfect. I will take the first slide here. We wanted to give a big thank you to our used book fair volunteers, and I believe that happened just at the end of April, so we didn't have enough time to add it last month, but wanted to be sure to take the time to recognize those who contributed to that effort, to both kind of refresh our library materials and provide the community with a number of awesome literary materials. So special thanks to Erin, Danielle, Martina, Gloria, Nick, Tabia, Nikki, Anna, Alex, Monica, and Nina. And I want to say that Paige might have also been a part of that, as was Heidi Schultz. So special thanks to all of them. Their efforts also resulted in, I think, about $1,200 for the annual fund, which supports the library. So a big thank you to all of those folks who helped organize that. All right.
As our second recognition, we want to recognize all the volunteers for our grandparents and loved ones Kaffee Klatsch. I wasn't there personally, my wife was, and my in-laws, so my grandparents
The
for my
grandparents.
kids. And I think it was packed.
It was
It was
packed.
It was really packed. And as far as I understand, and maybe Director St. Finch can elaborate on that, but I think it was a great success. So without our volunteers, we wouldn't have the opportunity to do that. So please hold on. There are a lot of volunteers for that one, especially our student volunteers. So from staff, we want to recognize Isabel Wollenweider, Nicole Krashel, Andy Nassett, Kim Hackett, Nina Maslowski, Esther Neu, Elizabeth Zehnpfennig, and Monica Avery, as well as all our interns that helped. Special thank you to our student tour guides, Isaac Rodecki, Stella Zehnpfennig, Amelie Warden, Summer Hines, Tennyson Lacey, Netta Wheeler, Andrew Erickson, Emma Jean Voss, Papa Lacey, Rania Alcataud, Elizabeth Segler-Litzan, Audrey French, Juliane Bauer, Johannes Richter, Martina Panzer.
Wura.
Say again.
She goes by Wura.
Okay.
Mhm.
Claire Olsen Crane, Markan Tesfayesus, Graham Hennessy, Olivia Daimel, Oliver Moffat, Fiona Richter, Joshua Adams, Emma Pavlicki, Charlize Palkovic, Cora Kampf, Caroline Bechtold, Leo Jemane.
All right.
And for our parent volunteers, for the Kaffee Klatsch, David Moore, Kersten Reich, Emily Gallagher, Katrin Erdmann, Lisa Novak, and Elaine White. Also, special thanks to parents who baked for that event, Jane Sumner, Courtney Beran, Elizabeth Reimers, and Marcy Vella. So thank you very much for making this a very successful event.
And thank you for reading all those names.
Yeah, I'm clapping for that too.
That was
really
impressive.
great. Yeah.
All right, next, the board would like to thank the staff and chaperones that went to Valze with the sixth graders a few weeks ago. I have a sixth grader who had an amazing time and had nothing but great things to say about their experience, including all the staff and volunteers that traveled. So thank you to Christopher Tavish. Oh, God, we just did this one. Gert Schreiter, Sam Graff, Tilda Hammer, Katrin Gilhoff, Cindy Kiddock, Isaiah Terveen, Trisha Menke, Thomas Dobler, Victor Beck, Tomo Hoffman, Jana Persendorfer, Victoria Kubik, Hannah Klapperik, Kiara Knapp, Leah Aberhart, I know that one, Emily Ike, Simone Allback. Yeah, so thank you all for keeping our kids safe and happy and giving them an amazing experience.
Awesome.
All right, last but not least, are the leads that helped with Staff Appreciation Week. A few weeks ago as well. It feels like a very long time ago and also yesterday. They went above and beyond as they normally do. It's such a treat, and it's really appreciated by the staff. It's never a shortage by any means, which is also really nice to not feel like you have to panic and rush down anywhere. You know it's going to be there for you. So on Monday we had some, I think they called them Monday mocktails. And so there was a bunch of different drinks, bubbly waters, pops, and things, and you could add fruit. You could add different like flavorings and syrups. Yeah, they're still in the lounge. Made myself a kitty cocktail to get through Monday. It was great. Tuesday was lunch catered from Centro, which was awesome. It's always nice to not have to think about packing a lunch in May. Wednesday was, oh gosh, what was Wednesday? It was the bagels, yeah, because it was a PE day that day. That's right. We switched it up a little bit and we didn't have school, which is also a nice little treat from the board. Thursday was the mystery gift bags and gift cards and things like that. So you could put your name into the drawings and all of those good things. It was awesome to see that happen. There was a beach giveaway. There was a JBL speaker, all sorts of cool things, which was awesome. And then Friday was the Rainbow Day, which is always amazing. We had I have a picture of it. It's so many snacks. It's ridiculous. So overall, a good and memorable week on top of having Wednesday off. So we'd like to thank Erin Myers, Courtney Basie, Candace Davis, Monica Piero Komamua, Jane Sumner, and Celestina Jolly.
Awesome. Amazing. I think those slides just reflect what a incredible community that we all get to be a part of, from trips to book sales to the extended community of the grandparents and loved ones coffee clutch to our PTO. I think it's pretty amazing. So it's always nice to take a pause and appreciate those acts of kindness. That I think we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is just a brief update on the strategic planning process. I know we are all pretty well aware, but just want to make sure our community has the chance to be kept up to date on this process. I'll give Kevin a sec to pull up the slideshow. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So we have established our strategic planning committee. And I just wanted to run through who is a part of that. It's all of the TCGIS board members. We've also invited the incoming board members to join that effort for whatever they are able to do, just so that they feel like they are a part of that process and well-versed in kind of how we get to where we are going in the coming months. We also have a number of community members who are listed there. It's a mix of parents of all ages, and folks that are involved in committees, and even we have one coach up there, Kirsten Partenheimer. So lots of folks that are invested in our school and are willing to share their time in this way, which is wonderful. TCGIS admin will also be a part of the group. Director Zanfanega is making sure that all those folks are able to join us. And also we have sent out an invitation to staff and are just waiting for responses from our staff members. So all in all, we'll have a group of about 25 people to help guide this process and get it underway for our school. Go ahead, Kevin. We did host a number of listening sessions over May 7th and 8th. Specific sessions were held for staff, board, community, admin, and students. We also did share a listening session feedback form, and 115 participants participated in that, which helps to inform kind of some trends and things like that we are seeing and hearing from our community, which will obviously then weigh into how the strategic plan is formed. You can see the breakdown of who participated there. We also sent out surveys, 2 different surveys. We sent out a survey for our external audiences, which included parents and guardians of current students. That also included any staff who are also parents, and students also had the chance to take that survey as well. There was a separate survey for internal stakeholders, which included administrators, board, and non-licensed staff, as well as licensed staff. So you can see the breakdown of who responded there. And the surveys and some of the conversation with the listening sessions were pretty similar. So just want to acknowledge that those that participated in the listening sessions may have been less inclined to participate in some of the surveys. So our next steps, our first strategic planning committee meeting is quickly approaching next week. On Wednesday, we will meet from 5 to 7 here. That meeting will include a state of the school address from Elizabeth, where we'll just kind of lay the foundation with where we are at in terms of key indicators and finances, enrollment, academic performance, kind of a glorified director's report. And then Gail Gilman from MISBA will also provide us with the stakeholder engagement report, which will walk through what we learned from our surveys and listening session feedback. So it should be a good, productive meeting, and we'll kind of set the stage for our work going forward. Anything I missed or any other questions? Great.
I'm excited to get the process into its next phase.
Yep, we did receive the initial kind of feedback from Gail, and it's interesting how you can already start to identify some themes and things like that. So I think those who participated gave thoughtful feedback that will be helpful to us. So great. With that, I will turn it over to Director Zanfanega.
Great. Herr Eberhard, whenever you're ready, you can load my presentation. Okay, good evening, everyone. We'll start with our operational updates as per usual, and our key financial indicators. This is, remember, 2 months behind. We have 79 days cash on hand. Our current enrollment was at 556. Average daily membership, however, is sitting still at 558. DSCR is exactly at 1.0, which meets our bond covenant. And our fund balance is 29.3%. Staffing updates, hopefully in May, we don't have too many. We haven't hired any educational assistants nor kinder club. We are really fully staffed in both of those areas. We do have notification of people not returning for next year. And so we have Amy Peterschmidt retiring, Suzanne Hall also retiring at the end of this year. And then Sophie Mangan has decided that she is going to go have another adventure. So we wish her well. Additional operational updates. We've got a couple of things going on. The design updates. I had a 2-hour design meeting with Jessica and Christine, and they showed me fabrics and patterns and colors, and it was really great. We kind of honed in on some things. They came and measured for some signs last week. And so estimates are coming, and we will choose our selections in June and begin the work in July. The atrium is going to be painted. It's going to be super exciting. It's exciting to go out to Van Slyke and see the sign that is the old logo. We're going to replace that. We're going to put the new logo there. So this is really going to be a brand refresh, and I'm super excited. Bonding update, Richard and I met with Piper one more time, waiting on a few answers. We're looking at some project quotes, and we will bring that to finance in June. We wanted Nick to run a couple of different numbers, but we're still going forward with the bonding project. We're just not quite there yet. The budget is ready to go to finance next week, and I believe Director Hyde will report a little bit more on that later. One thing as we dove into both the working budget for now and sort of planning the budget for next year is we've noticed that when it comes to the lunch program, we are never quite going to come out in the positive. We do not receive enough of a reimbursement from the state to cover our staffing. And so we will always sort of be in the negative, which forced me to dive a little bit deeper into the lunch program. And so I wanted to bring just to the board and to the community a couple of really important sort of high-level summaries and some things to keep in mind. We're in our second year of participation in the free lunch program. We average about 340 meals daily, with breakfast being about half that, 180 to 200. Our participations program results in higher costs due to higher staff. Before, we didn't need to have staff in order to give out the breakfast. Now we do. So our staff is here longer. There are supplies. We just ordered paper bags again today. Everything is sort of costing more. Our meal claims do not cover these costs. And you might be confused by that because it's called the free meal program. But the freeness is I have to try to think of how I can explain this. We get reimbursed for the meals based on the free and reduced status or the not free and reduced status. So our free and reduced percentage is, I think, 10%. So we do not receive as much reimbursement as a school that has, say, 50% free and reduced lunch. So because 90% of our school is non-free and reduced, we're just not getting as much money as other schools to cover our lunch. They are being paid out at the lowest level. We did negotiate with our caterer just recently. Kudos to Alex Sweeting. We just signed yesterday. We were able to reduce the increase from 4.2 to 3%. And then we will have, that was this year, and then we will have a 3.1% for the next year.
Can I ask a quick question?
For sure.
About the
Reimbursement.
the reimbursement. And I'm guessing that I probably already know the answer, but is the thought that we would then charge because we don't have students on free and reduced lunch that we would then, as a school, charge to make up the difference? Or I'm not totally
Nope.
following why we wouldn't be reimbursed.
So the thought would
costs
be that we are a school. I'm just gonna say Edina, which probably doesn't have a very high free and reduced population, and then their tax base is giving that school more money.
More
And
discretionary.
so, correct. And so they're just assuming then that our gen ed, that our general fund is picking up the rest. And it's not.
But there's no accommodation for charter schools which don't have
Correct.
access to the same.
Correct. Yeah. We are beholden to the same programs, but don't receive the same benefits. Yeah.
Thanks.
Great question. So we have to be really clever, careful about how we run the lunch program. We're keeping the working hours to a max five a day. And if the lunch count is under, Alex is calling and not calling people in. We're trying to find ways to reduce the waste. So staff are very good about reaching out to anybody that hasn't grabbed the breakfast or grabbed the lunch. It just needs to get grabbed. It can even just get thrown away and then it counts. If it's not grabbed or gotten by a person, then we don't get reimbursement for it. Which is the message, I think, for the community. We've got some cost savers. If you are ordering for the month and you know that you've got a family vacation coming up, don't just press the easiest button to order for the whole month. Take the time to go through it and choose just the days that you're actually going to be there. It's a huge cost saver to us. We had there was a negative amount we couldn't quite figure out. We thought maybe the meals weren't getting grabbed, but it's actually just our absentee percentage. They lined up exactly. So in any given month, we have about 1,000 kids out. So it's 1,000 lunches that aren't getting eaten and we're not able to be reimbursed for them. It's a lot of money.
So reimbursement is on actual consumption.
Correct. Yeah, so ensure that if you are ordering breakfast for your family, that they are aware and that they're grabbing it. We do have a program where Alex Weeding will email the names and teachers will have their kids go down, but very often we hear, I don't want it. You know, I don't, whatever it is, they don't want, and so they don't take it. And we're losing a lot of money. It's also very wasteful, but we're losing a lot of money that way.
Is breakfast the biggest problem, or is it both breakfast and lunch?
No, the biggest problem is the absentees and then losing out on that reimbursement.
This is a detailed question, but do you know the difference between like absentees like that are one-off because I was sick versus like a planned absenteeism, like my family went on vacation?
Most of it is a one-off, but we have seen a pattern where if you have maybe a certain virus that wants you to be out for 5 days, you can email food service and they'll take off the other 3 or whatever. Like if you know your kid's got something, they're going to be out for the whole week, you can connect with Alex Weeding and she can remove those.
Oh, that might be something worth publicizing.
Yep, we're going to put it in the group brief. Yeah. Alex.
Could there also be like a generic response email to when like families email and say, hey, my kid is out today, they're sick? Just like a auto response or whatever.
If you ordered lunch.
That's, hey, or how long are they going to be out? Reminder if.
Yeah, that's great because it's the same group that's answering those calls. Yeah, good point. Any questions around lunch? I learned a lot. Alex is a really great resource. Okay, then we are continuing to use our Charter Connect for SEO, and a lot came down this month about making websites compliant with ADA regulations, and so we're diving into that. Our website is not where it needs to be in order to check a lot of those boxes, and so Charter Connect is actually going to help us with that. And this is just some data on how many people are using our website. It's gone up. Next slide is current enrollment sitting at 554. Our average ADM I just looked today is at 557. So at the end of the year, it's really hard to kick it down. It stays pretty close to the same. Slide 11 is where our enrollment is sitting for next year, around 566. We don't have many offers out in kindergarten, so we're continuing to do tours, build that wait list. And speaking of recruitment and retainment, that's the next slide. We had a bunch of events, including the one that we talked about tonight, Grandparents and Loved Ones Cafe Clutch. We made $500 in swag that night, which is great. Grandparents want to brag about their grandkids. There were roughly 175 attendees, 86 email addresses collected for fundraising purposes. The event cost, it was $20 only, thanks to our baking volunteers. And we had a coffee sponsor. Paige was really showing some initiative. She knew that there was a new coffee company around the lake called Carol Coffee. She stopped there one morning and asked them if they would sponsor coffee for us, and they did. So please visit that lovely venue, Carol Coffee. There's some great pictures there. You can see our students. The students by far stole the show.
For sure did.
They were so great. My favorite anecdote from that night is the grandparent who came up and said, I don't know if these 8th graders know anything because the 6th graders had to correct them. So cute. We've got some things coming up right now. We still have a couple of tours left. We had new family welcome night, May 13th. There was another play date on the 18th. We're tabling at the Youth Pride. That's here, I believe, in Como. End of the year festival. Deutsche Tage is still looking for volunteers on Sunday. We'll table at that night. Sunday is Father's Day, and very few people want to be there on Sunday. So if you're not doing anything on Sunday and want to be at Deutsche Tage, we could really use you. We have a former board member, Rich Iwin, who is a member of this Porsche Club, And I was there last year and thought we totally have to be here. This is our target market, all these people and all their German stuff. So we're going to table there. My husband's going to volunteer at this table. Rich Iwan's going to be at the table. And we're going to make our kids sit there and it's going to be super fun. That takes place in Rosedale if you want to visit us. And then we'll probably be hearing about the 20th anniversary for the next couple of months. So we've finally picked a date. September 20th is the date. So mark your calendars. It's a Saturday. It is before the capstone students arrive. Want to make sure we got it in for that. And reach out to Paige, our year check, if you would like to join that committee. We'll have a couple of different groups running a couple of different things, but we'll have a parent group. We're going to meet with them for the first time. I think it's the 10th, we just talked about, it's in 2 weeks. So parent meeting, if you're interested, come join us. Moving on to some academics, our focus today is really German immersion, which is perfect because Katrin Gilhoff, who's here tonight, and the GAI are kicking off their German immersion conference actually tonight. Starts officially tomorrow. And so it's a real full weekend of German immersion around St. Paul. Just a quick reminder, we formed the task forces in the last school year around our mission, and we ideally chose one person from each grade level, so we had lots of representation. And then we took that group and split it into 4 subtasks. So we worked on professional development, supporting all learners, reinforcing German use, and then there was a testing group. So the first group was professional development. Next slide, please. Thank you. We had a couple of goals to improve the culture around German immersion in our school by offering 1 PD course per semester. We kind of blew that out of the water. We've had a ton of PD around German immersion. We've got great colleagues at our school like Katrin Gilhoff who are ready and willing to share immersion strategies. Nina Maslowski is presenting tomorrow. Chris Tabish is presenting tomorrow or Saturday. So lots of people willing to share. We connected with Yolanda Schicker back in August and November. She came to visit. We worked on our language objectives. It wasn't in German, but it was definitely language focused with Megan Stetcher. And then I already said Katrin was a presenter in November. And then we're getting ready for the immersion conference this weekend. So we've checked that box and we'll continue to check it. Group 2 was supporting all learners, and you're actually going to hear a little bit more about that too when I get to the DAF presentation. But supporting all learners, one big thing was to add the language objectives and the content objectives, which are part of the CAPA model and an important immersion strategy. And so far, our goal was that all teachers would use language goals 50% of the time by the end of the year. Our mid-year data said we're not quite there. We'll do another survey at the end, and then we'll evaluate and see what kind of PD we need to have next year in order to get all teachers on board. Group 3, reinforcing German usage. This was the most fun group. They got to implement a system to reinforce students, staff, and family in German uses. We checked all those boxes except family is in red. We have not figured that one out yet. We haven't cracked that code. That'll be a goal for next year. The elementary students do their Sprachmeister. There's a German word of the week that is in our Monday email. Nina Maslowski has taken that on and been a great teacher for us all. We have added some prizes to the middle school assemblies. The Eistaucher Prize is the student who celebrates our values, and then the German Speaker of the Month. So we're just celebrating those that are continually using German in class. Teachers nominate those. And then the winners are chosen, everybody applauds, they come up and they get some great German swag. And it's been pretty fun, a lot of pride from our students.
Can I add something?
For sure.
That one, I got to see that at the Grandparents
Coffee
and it
Clutch,
was super
yeah.
awesome. And it was awesome to see how excited the kids were. I would say though, I talked to a number of parents whose kids were nominated for those awards who didn't hear peep from their own kids. So it would be awesome to somehow celebrate those kids in a more public way, or at least email their parents. Because I talked to a couple of them and they're like, I had no idea.
Was one of them yours?
No, it was earlier in the year, but.
So trying to be surprised kids didn't go home and tell their parents.
But it was but based on how excited all the students were,
Yeah.
I would have thought that they would have
Yeah.
come home and jumping up and down. So,
Yeah, that's interesting.
or some public way in the room brief or something. I don't know.
Yeah, room brief would be cute.
It'd be just really fun.
That would be fun.
Were you gonna say
Group
something?
4 was tasked with improving testing scores. Most of the teachers are surround the DSD 1, et cetera. This goal has not been totally reached. We have some ideas, put a plan together, and now the plan needs to be implemented. So that one gets a yellow. I threw this in as we're talking about, sorry, next slide, Kevin. We're talking about German immersion. This was a survey question from mid-year to the families. How well do you think your child is developing German language skills, listening, speaking, reading, and writing? And so it's about, 68% feel that they're exceeding or meeting. But a lot of people probably don't know how to assess that or don't really have much to say. So one thing we know we need to do for next year is to bring families in, make sure that they are understanding the assessments that we're giving and being able to give them tools to be able to assess things like that, or just to read the assessments and know where they're at. Going back to that second group, we pulled that out of the German immersion and we kind of gave that specifically to a smaller group. DAF, this is a little board PD here, stands for Deutsch als Fremdsprache, or German as a foreign language, and is designed to support students with limited German ability, who maybe are new to our school, started in a later grade, didn't start at the very beginning, and are showing signs of needing extra support. So the students that are eligible are any TCGI students who join later than kindergarten. We do not give DAF to kindergartners. We still let them percolate, and that are showing persistent struggle with German language proficiency. Something that was new this year was a screener that was developed and given to our students. So in the same way that we do the rest of our screeners for math and literacy, we have this one here. Students who join later than kindergarten automatically qualify for DAF support. Teachers can fill out a referral form, and then students are assessed as to where they need, what support they need. Parents receive a DAF progress report at the end of the school year, very similar to our ADSYS program. This follows in the Tier 2 category. So it's a support that not all students need. We're targeting those. Students who gain enough proficiency are exited from that program, and parents are informed. This is gated screening, so that's different than everybody getting the screener. When we suspect that a student needs additional German support, we screen that student to better discern the needs. I just have to say, is really cool. This isn't something that is this is very TCGIS specific. We're really kind of paving the way on this. DAF numbers from 24-25. In elementary school, we had 12 students, middle school, 8 students. We also consider the course that we teach called Intensiv Deutsch as a DAF class. So every student in that class is usually requiring some extra support, and that course is specifically tailored to provide extra support for the DSD1. Approximately next year, we're looking at close to the same amount of students. Parents are allowed to decline services. We realize anytime we're doing a pull-out like this, they're missing something else. We try to choose the time that makes the most sense. If you're supporting a kid in German, it doesn't make a lot of sense to pull from German. If the kid doesn't have a lot of German, it doesn't make sense to be in German. So we take all those things into consideration. Factors that impact the number of DAF students. Right now, the number of 6th grade students will roll then into that intensive DAF course in 7th and 8th grade. And we use teacher data, I think that's a typo. And then we also have a EVA2 test, which is the predecessor to the DSD1. And then parents and students get input as well. We run the sections of that class dependent upon the students that we have. So this year we had 1, last year we had 2. We tend to see the increased need in 5th grade with that transition to middle school. They're doing more content in German, and we see kids begin to struggle. Often student DAF needs are identified after an initial universal screening in fall. We'll screen students whose teachers suggest based on observation that they'll need more support with the increased complexity of German in that grade. We're working on a DAF protocol coming soon, should be implemented next year, giving teachers more guidance in how to deal with students who might have a different level of German while maintaining the level of German for all. We're going to increase focusing on teaching strategies for supporting deaf students in the classroom. Things like anchor charts and sheltered instruction will become part of that protocol.
Can you just talk about what those things are?
Yes.
Anchor chart.
An anchor chart is, if you are working on key vocabulary, having that vocabulary up on a wall so that it's easily referenced. I might learn it sooner, but you might need some refreshing. And so it's there in case you need it. Thinking about your elementary math classes, there were always multiplication things on the wall and things like that. That's an anchor chart. And then sheltered instruction is, I'm going to give the lesson to all, maybe in 3 or 5 minutes. And then after that, I know that Emily is really struggling, so I'm going to go over to her and I'm going to shelter my instruction and I'm going to say, make sure she understood what the directions were, make sure there's any key vocabulary she might need to know, and then she gets her own so that she can start in the same manner as likely the rest of the class.
Thank you.
Okay, this is just the regular part of the director's report. Moving on to innovative education. We finished our 3rd round of screeners. We're having our data meetings and choosing the access caseload for next year. Our READ Act training was completed. Amazing. That group did a ton of work this year. And we will be paying out our READ Act training stipends soon. Summer writing applications are out. So we offer for teachers to write curriculum or get ahead a couple of hours in the summer to do that work, and then we pay them out according to our CBA. Our 5th grade teachers are attending a math conference in June, an elementary focused math conference in June. Our PD day was on the Friday of last, wrapping up the end of the year. We're doing some meetings with the grades 4 and 5 as we begin to do that connection. Classroom composition was done. Just a reminder to folks out there that there's a whole lot that goes into that classroom composition, a whole lot. We take into consideration special education needs. We take into consideration, kids that we know that get along well, kids that we know that don't get along well. Lots goes into that. The SPED team met on that day also to continue discussing that audit. That's still coming up. We're still permeating on that. For the whole child, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so we're turning our focuses to normalizing mental health discussions. We had our 2nd all council meeting of the year, and we're really making some strides on lunch. I don't want to give any spoiler alerts, but pizza is coming. Thanks to our student council. Last dance of the school year is happening June 6th. And then graduation, we're getting ready for graduation on June 8th. Celebrating our students. I think that's the last slide.
Any questions?
Katrin is also here if there are questions about DAF or anything we'd like to ask her. I would recommend that we take advantage of that knowledge in the room.
So we talked about students. What about the teachers?
For DAF, for German as a foreign language?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great question. Connor Bourne, our psych intern this year, created like a little Stammtisch for German, for those practicing their German. For those that are beginning, we've offered, the GAI has a course, and we have offered for teachers if they want to start their German. That's how David Meese got really good. If you remember David, our drama teacher, he was on his 2nd class and his German was getting really great. So that is something we encourage with a good partner, the GAI. Yeah, we also took a couple of chaperones on the exchange who were non-German speakers, and they picked up a little bit. And so, language is culture too. And so every time we take that trip, we take one non-German speaker. And we're just kind of widening, it was Emily once, just kind of widening that world for that teacher.
So for elementary school students, I know in 7th and 8th, there's intensive Deutsch. But for DAF, for elementary schools, and maybe I missed this, is it more one-on-one? Is it
it's
groups
full out
of
it's
kids based on
usually
proficiency? Or?
It's small group instruction, so pullouts 2 to 3. Sometimes it's one, just based on the schedule. And they try to group them by grade level. And then I know Katrin is working on sort of getting that curriculum aligned. And so here are the things that everybody needs to get this, this, and this. Yeah.
Yeah, so this year we had pullouts, but we also had push-ins. So there were second graders where we realized it's better when I'm actually in the class instead of doing something different. So I helped in class during German, and that worked out very well.
On one of the slides, it said that there's parent and student like input on whether services are needed. How does that happen? Like when would a parent know, or is that something that they have to approach the school about?
So as soon as a teacher in German sees that a kid might have needs, or as soon as a new kid gets enrolled, I usually get a message. And then I send out a consent form to parents, and the parents have to sign it. And as soon as I have the consent form, I can, the DAF team can start services.
In 6th grade, after the test that the students take in 6th grade, we will send out emails to the families recommending their student either to take Spanish or to take the intensive German class. It is just a recommendation. We let the families and the students decide. Some students decide to take Spanish anyway, despite it kind of depends on what people's goals are, what people's paths are. Spanish is highly regarded and kids really want to take it. And so it's hard sometimes to choose. We've tried to find different ways to avoid that choice, and we just haven't come up with a solution yet.
If a child is not recommended for the intensive German instead of Spanish, is that a possibility?
Yeah, they can.
Okay.
They can.
And
And that class is taught by Tilda Hammer. They've had it for the last couple of years, and it's great. It preps the kids for the DSD really well. So it's designed to be engaging, not babyish, right? It's like totally at their level. They're talking about soccer and themselves and getting the kids talking every day. So Tilda's a great teacher.
Does Tilda also do the like curriculum, or do you help with that for the intensive German class?
That's what Tim does.
That's Tilda's.
Okay.
Are there many families that decline the DAF program?
Families usually do not decline the DOT services. Families do decline the intensive Deutsch.
Okay.
Yeah. It's had a stigma in the past. We tried to change the name to make it less stigmatized. We can't quite crack the code.
I mean, intensive German sounds like it's intensive
Great,
German.
right?
Like,
It used
yeah.
to be, it was UD, Unterstützungsdeutsch, support German, which
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's less
that's
appealing.
not as great. Yeah, it's intensiv Deutsch.
Mhm.
But we also had a family who then missed that and chose the wrong class because they thought it was intense. So can't really win.
Do 7th and 8th graders take that together?
This year they had it together.
Yeah.
In the past, it's been a 7th grade class and an 8th grade class. And we just had the right amount for one class,
Just based on numbers.
just based on numbers. If we have a higher need, we'll move it up to 2 sections next year. Any other questions?
Do you have any information or idea on how many students that join the school later than the first year or two utilize the DAF, and how much it's helping?
That's a great question. Off the top of my head, I would say that it is successful 50 to 60% of the time. And then by, year 2, most families will know whether their kid's going to make it or not, whether they're able to make up the gaps. The DAF, we're very honest to families, and we're very clear that we can do these services. We can work with teachers on helping. If kids aren't motivated to do it, to learn or to work hard or whatever, if they're not able to, then, there isn't any magic cure.
Katrin, are you doing all the pullouts, or do other?
I just did elementary school this year and Tildehammer did middle school.
Okay.
We've had other teachers do it in the past too. Andrew Lubin had him 1 year, so.
I know Tilda's German is amazing, but do you think there's benefits to native speaker doing the pullout and stuff versus?
So out of experience, Tilda has been the best staff teacher we've had so far because they have so much Waldsee experience. And in terms of progress, I've never seen so much progress with beginners in middle school. So the first semester we had pullouts, and the second semester we actually mixed it up. So there was only one pullout a week, and then the other times Tilda pushed in either into German, science, or social studies, and that worked out very well for, I would say, 80% of participants. So yeah.
And Tilda is maybe unique here. Tilda has the same license that I do, and so we were trained to teach German, whereas a lot of our teachers here were trained to teach content. And so they're still in their classes, so the immersion is still happening. And
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
good to know. So like instead of being licensed in Spanish, but just happen to speak German, or like
Correct.
Kevin, I don't know what Kevin's license is.
I
but
do,
like-
but yeah.
Yeah. But like, you know,
Yeah.
being Austrian knows German,
Correct.
that I didn't know Tilda went.
Well, I also studied it.
What?
I also studied it.
German?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're like a native German speaker that studied German more?
Yeah, and English.
Oh. All right.
Kevin and I have the same license.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for everything you do for that program. I think it's been very beneficial for, especially with our enrollment pushing and
Yeah.
being able to add kids in later years than would normally be comfortable with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, one thing we know we need to do is probably speed the screening process up this year so that those families who are waiting for it, make sure that they get their services, really close to the beginning of the year, so they know that it's happening.
Great. Wonderful. Any final thoughts, questions, comments? All right, that brings us to our recess then. We're a little bit ahead of schedule, so I'm going to say let's take a 15-minute recess, and we will reconvene at 7:40. We good? All right, it is 7:42, and I will call this May 29th meeting of the Twin Cities German Immersion School Board of Directors back to session. And next up on our agenda is a budget update from Director Hyde.
All right, I don't think I'll take the whole 35 minutes, so that'll be good for our meeting time. I met with Kim and Elizabeth to kind of get an idea of where the budget's at. It will be ready for the finance meeting next week. So we'll view the preliminary final budget at that meeting and the finance committee will be able to give recommendation to the board for the budget approval at the June board meeting. We have been working off of a budget of 555. I'm told that we're going to have one for 550. Is that what you said? To review at the meeting next week as well, just to have options there. We had our meeting with the CBA with the union earlier this week, and we'll be meeting again next week. Looking like we should have a tentative agreement by the end of the year, or by the end of the fiscal year. So that's great. The state finalized, it looks like they finalized the general education increase. Everything stayed the same as we thought it would be. None of the tentative cuts are in the current bill. And even though the bill hasn't passed, it seems like education funding is not any of the issue with or sticking points there. So that should all remain unchanged when it is passed. So I think we're safe to move forward with that 274 increase for the year. And then, I talked to Kim about staffing and Elizabeth, and it seems like staffing is as finalized in the budget as it can be at this point in the year. And we are sticking to all the class sizes that the board approved last year, and then all the department budgets are done and in the budget. So yeah, should be ready to go. You have anything to add?
No, I would just add that the department budget process that Karen Cleansing added with Kim Hackett's support last year really made that part easy. It was the second time that our team had done that, and so everybody was really familiar. And one thing I think we did differently was we looked at those things and it kind of with a fine tooth comb. And there were some things that could be adjusted, and so we didn't let everything go into the budget, so it's helpful.
Yeah.
Um,
Any other questions on it or?
Is there any conversation about I know we're kind of looking at 555, 550 as two different budget options. Knowing our attrition, is there any talk of going lower than 550? Do we think that needs to happen?
No, we are meeting tomorrow with Nicole to discuss enrollment. So I think that's the last thing that needs to get finalized before we give the budget to the finance committee for review and present it to the board for approval at the June meeting, is deciding that. So I think I will have a much better idea on my comfort level with what number to choose for enrollment next year, after tomorrow. Do you have?
I looked at numbers over the last 10 years. Today, we've never dipped below 550.
I guess we can get into finance. Might as well just do the finance
Yeah.
report now since we're talking, because it kind of leads into that. So in the budget, we do have interest built in. And I think we're using 80,000. I think that's pretty accurate for what we'll see with the switch. Now that that's all, well, we're not switching, but now that we don't need to switch and we are getting interest from Bremer already, or Old National now already, there's nothing to be done there. So I think it's safe to put into the budget. Yeah, that's taken effect as of like 6 weeks ago now. So we'll even have a little bit to add into this current year. The line of credit that we talked about at the last finance meeting and at the committee of the whole meeting has been applied for. I need to sign my thing. It's on
I'll
my,
sign my thing.
you did? Okay. It's on my to-do list for tomorrow while I'm sitting at the garage sale. So
Garage sale this weekend too.
are you? Huh. But yeah. So that's all done. As we all talked about at the last committee of the whole meeting, and we talked about at the finance meeting, we're still considering strongly refinancing the 13 bonds, but we're not sure if what we want that to look like yet. We're waiting for Andy to get some last numbers that it sounds like they were here today. So I don't know if we'll have stuff by the finance committee meeting. Maybe it'll be something we talk about at committee of the whole as a board, and then decide if we want to wait, and maybe we'll need to just throw a mid-July finance meeting up or something like that if we need to.
We could task force it.
Yeah, we could task force it. Great. Yeah, and then the March financial report and everything is in the packet. Net income for the year is projected to be about where it has been projected to be. DSCR still looks like it should be 1, and our end of the year cash on hand should be 79, well above the 60 required. Yeah, waiting for that last comp for HVAC from Andy that I referenced earlier. There was also some repairs that or that Elizabeth told Andy to go ahead with, and that'll all be coming out of the ABC money. And then I know you gave a brief update on the design at the finance committee, but you've had a meeting since then. I don't know if you want to update at all, or if that's
So
some
many
June.
finance updates, but that team knows how we can spend with the ABC money versus out of our general fund, and so they're prepared.
Okay, great. So that's budget recap and finance recap. Unless there's any questions, concerns, smart aleck remarks.
Excellent. Thank you. It's the mad dash to the finish, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's how this goes.
Trying to make it look easy.
I appreciate that. You do make it look easy.
Elizabeth makes it easy.
And Kim.
And Kim.
It's a team effort. All right, I think I'm next. I have so many agendas open. But I will go and give the fundraising and development minutes in place of Director Smaka, since she is under the weather this evening. We did meet on May 13th to review kind of the outcomes of our spring campaign, and I am pleased to announce that since our last meeting, our total raised did increase to over $10,000. So we did meet our goal. We are currently at, as of this meeting, we were just over $91,000 in funds raised. So I just want to give a big shout out to our school community for their generosity, because that is pretty amazing. And I'd also like to acknowledge the committee for their work as volunteer fundraisers. To raise $91,000 for a school is no small feat. So just want to give a shout out to everybody that helped to do that. We did do some debriefing on the spring campaign and have some ideas about going forward, about how we can do things maybe a little bit differently, how we can maximize this peer-to-peer fundraising platform that we tried out this spring. I think there's a lot of potential and a lot of good ideas that are floating around. So we are planning to meet in June to kind of do a rehash. I think we continue to grapple with how to effectively fundraise to meet our budget without a dedicated staff person. So I think there's additional conversation that's going to be had around that and how we can structure things so that it feels like a reasonable lift and also meets our budget goals. So that's kind of the things that we are thinking about. I did also meet with Nina to talk about the report due to the Hall Foundation. Just as a reminder, they're the ones that gifted us a $10,000 grant for our intern program. And as part of that gift agreement, we do owe them a report. We also, unfortunately can't apply for that next year, but hopefully we'll put such a good foot forward that they'll allow us to apply in the following year. So, that is kind of the update, and obviously the successful coffee clutch with the grandparents and loved ones. So that's a wonderful way that we're working to expand the base of supporters and to help our broader community understand kind of where we're at as a charter school in terms of how philanthropy helps our school do unique things and meet our budget. So that was a win. Any questions on fundraising? Great. Now I'm going to go back up. Who's next? Governance?
Technically.
Committee of the whole.
Committee of the whole. It's me again.
Keep her going.
Keep her going. Committee of the whole. We met just prior to the second Big Base kickball game of the year. But I spent a good chunk of time talking about our strategic planning, as well as our nomination and vacant board positions, which thankfully we have a positive updates and positive momentum. We also, as Richard alluded to, talked a lot about refinancing our 2013 bonds and the options that lie before us with that. We also reviewed our end of the year survey for parents. That is something that we will be sending out here in just the next few days. So that's it. Huh?
Yeah.
Now it's governance.
Yeah, to kind of allude more to what Kirsten was saying. We've got our voting underway. If you don't have your emails, things like that attached, you can talk to Kevin about making sure that you can vote. That closes tomorrow at the end of the day. And then after that, we should be good to go for setting those up for June. The other piece is that because of the volume of applicants before and after the deadlines, we've made a decision as the nomination committee to go ahead with 2 appointments to fill the other 2 slots that are vacant, both from the general election and also from Director Miller leaving earlier this year. And so we'll go back up to 9 at the end because I can't do math otherwise. I kept thinking there should be 6 of us here tonight. I'm doing well. So we'll get that situated. We have to do some interviews and then the board will appoint in June so that they can take on the same term structure as the rest of the group. And yeah, other than that, lots coming out of governance tonight. We have quite a few policies that are up for review. Before that, I just want to make a special note to say that we are going to hopefully maybe within the school day meet to discuss the wellness policy with our student council. That is the goal, is to not take out more time as indicated by Assistant Principal Radke. She requested that we try and find a time inside the school day to meet with the student council so that we could talk about what they had proposed to us back a few months ago. Unfortunately, they were not able to make it in April to our meeting when we kind of got back around to it. And then some of our older members of the student council were not present in the country during our last governance meeting. So they really wanted to be a part of the conversation. And I think that's important for them to be in that conversation as we talk about wellness. So we will get to that. Otherwise, we only had 2 first readings this month because we are finally on the down from all of the work this year. Thank you. And yeah, other than that, then I would make a motion to approve policy 414, which is mandated reporting. That's an annual updated policy. Policy 617, which is our school calendar policy. 516, which is student medication. Policy 609, which is religious accommodation. Policy 704, which is new, it's sped purchases. And then policy 709, which is transportation. And lastly, policy 426, which is nepotism.
All right. I will second your motion.
Awesome. Thank you.
Discussion. Are there any substantial changes that you feel like you want to bring to the forefront?
Looking at the medication one, we did include, so this is actually Mariah's. Thank you, Mariah, for giving us her copy. She actually made a ton of edits inside here for this policy draft. So the most important one is just noting the stock epinephrine at the bottom. It's in what is currently known as 314.613. I'll number everything to change a smidge. I apologize for not getting to those before tonight, but your days have been a little shorter than anticipated lately. So it's in there that student medication is different than the stock epinephrine. If there is a child that has medication on site for a known allergy, that is different than our stock epinephrine, which is for unknown. So that is the biggest note from that one. Otherwise, not a ton. 609 was pretty typical mandated reporting, didn't have much. Policy 617 was ready to go. It is, I will say, actually, the one thing, and I don't know if this needs to be a separate motion, is that when we looked up this policy 617, it was 602 in other places. So we were going to change it to 602 instead of 617. I don't know why we didn't initially do that, or if we didn't have a reference point at that point, and now the rest of the world has caught up to us. I'm not sure. So we did talk about that briefly. 704, like I mentioned, is new.
So that's the calendar policy, just to be
yes,
clear.
correct.
It's the correct listing is 602.
The new listing, the correct one, according to other reference documents that we've been looking at in committee, all reference it as 602. Ours is currently listed at 617. I don't know why. We've had this policy for quite a few years now. 704 I mentioned is brand new. This is sped purchases specifically. This was recommended by Tammy Stahl. Went through finance. Should be good to go. They wanted to kind of take the model of it. So there's not a lot of changes to what we were given initially. So, and transportation didn't have, there's a few changes that needed to be made in that one, but nothing substantially important to note other than some of the bus safety trainings. But those are more on the procedure side of just making sure we're compliant with those. And yeah, there's not a ton of really important things within them. It's just more, okay, we've talked about them a lot. Let's get them through.
Any other questions? Policies. Right.
I guess that's the benefit of 3 of the 5 of us being at the governance meetings.
Right.
Gonna say, it's like, how long is governance section gonna take out? Well, my entire committee's here, so.
And most of them are annual policies.
Yes, I do.
All right. All in favor of approving policy 414 mandated reporting, policy 602, formerly 617, the school calendar, policy 516, student medication, policy 609, religious accommodation, and policy 704, sped purchases, policy 709, transportation, and policy 426, nepotism, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, policies are approved. Impulsive.
Before you wrap up governance, you scooted past the other part too quickly. Election. When will the appointments happen?
In June,
The June meeting?
that's the goal.
Which board will do the appointments?
Which board?
Yeah.
The new board or the old board?
Yeah. So
Oh. That's probably a good question. I lean towards having the existing board do the
Yeah.
appointments because it should have been part of
yeah, and
assuming all deadlines would have been met, it would have been part of this board's responsibility to hold those elections, so.
so you're gonna do interviews? Is the board gonna be in that, or is that just, okay, that makes sense then. That was my question.
Not be necessarily,
Yes.
but I think I said, when I got appointed, I was in with the chair and one other.
Okay.
Yeah, so with,
Not to freak in, but
yep, last year's process included Emily, myself, and Lori Hartman. We interviewed the 2 candidates for appointment and then made a recommendation to the full board. I think we're certainly open. I would certainly be open to whoever wants to be a part of those conversations is welcome to participate. I would just ask that the committee or whoever the interviewing committee is consistent, obviously with all 3 candidates.
Yeah.
So it's 3 for 2 spots.
it is. they were mentioned in the brief today. I tried to keep it short,
Mhm.
so it's linked versus I wanted to keep our eyes on voting this week and then start highlighting a little bit more of the appointment afterwards, but it's also more of just a, hey, heads up versus vote in this because the appointments will not be obviously an election. So
We did try to make that clear in the communications to the community that, per our bylaws, that is how this all had to shake out. We also did, communicate the deadline for all applicants for people that wanted to be considered for appointments, in last week's room brief. So
Good.
trying to make sure that everybody is fully aware, whether everyone catches those things in the room brief. Another point
I
of
also
discussion,
did reach
but
out to anybody that had expressed interest in
Yep.
running and had potentially wanted to apply but had missed deadlines, so.
so we had 4 people who had expressed interest, 3 of whom ended up applying, 1 of whom did respond back and say it was just not the right time for her. So
It's already on
Did
the
we,
list.
I do feel like we did our due diligence.
did we get all the applications? Did I miss?
Apologies, I need to send them.
Okay.
I have them.
I think you sent 1.
Yeah, I didn't see all, I didn't, okay.
So yeah, that would be helpful. And if
Yes.
people have, if, for anyone that's not able to be on the interview committee, but if you have certain questions that you would like asked, I think we could certainly be open to entertaining those.
Yeah, I'm hoping to do that after this weekend, so I'll be focusing on it on Monday.
Okay, and then switching gears, do we have somebody in mind for swearing in?
I was just thinking about that actually yesterday. I know we've had our local representative, Athena Hollins, participate. I would certainly be open to that again. I think she's a fan of immersion schools and never hurts to engage her. If other people have different ideas, I'd certainly welcome that
Does
as
it
well.
have to be are there any?
Can be
It could
anybody,
be
I think.
anybody.
I think one year we had our authorizer do it, which was fun.
Done it.
Huh?
Amy Brenda one's
has
done
a
it.
different times.
She's no longer on.
Yeah, that's why, if we have, a local council person or representative or something that wants to do it, great. Otherwise it'd be, since we have a new authorizer, that might be
It might
fun.
be fun to have Danielle do it.
Yeah, I like that
Yeah.
idea.
And they might still be,
Athena's pretty busy these
I was
days.
gonna say, they might still be in session in June.
Mhm.
Um,
Otherwise, I was also gonna bring up forget their first name, the new rep from like Northeast Minneapolis that I met when I went to the Capitol with the 6th graders. I'll look it up. It'd be fun to reach out to. They speak
Oh.
German.
the German,
Yeah,
Chris knows who.
yeah.
that person is.
Mhm. Yeah, just as a German speaker, it might be fun to have them come and bring them into the community a little bit more.
Barbara Mueller.
I did think of her as well. And it's not be weird though, since it's like you uphold the Constitution. And she says, I don't know,
She's a lawyer, so she upholds the Constitution every day.
that's true. I just didn't know if that.
I hope.
Choices, choices.
Yeah,
Well, we have a few then.
great. Well, we can also reach out and see what people's schedules are. So,
Cool.
all right. Our next agenda item is liaison updates.
I can start. Staff council met last week. I unfortunately was not able to make the last staff council meeting. Was kind of disappointed, but they did give me a recap. So one of their big focuses is connecting with the parent council to see how parents can help more in the classroom or support teachers at the beginning of the year with snacks or something. Maybe bring in some parents to help staff with, scanning, copying, like some of that administrative stuff that maybe would just take a half an hour off of teachers' time. And reading circles, read alouds, like kind of having parent council take that kind of sign up or communication around it. And then the other big focus was on new members because 3 of the 4 will be rolling off. And the 3 that are rolling off have kind of taken the initiative to find their replacements. So like Ginger's trying to find a new ADSYS person for their representation, and Jules will try to find another elementary teacher and stuff. And Kim, I think, is staying on as the SPED. So Kim is the one that is staying on. And then the current staff have all committed to joining the first staff council meeting on October 7th to kind of get them situated next year. And to kind of hand off what we have done for the charter and all of that. Kind of hand that off to them and go over it with them so they can finalize it at the beginning of next year.
That's great. Wonderful. Director Yamaniab is not here. Was anyone else at parent council? I know there's one coming up. Has there been a parent council since our last? I know it's like next week or something.
I think I went to one, but I don't stay for the part that Abner does, so
Yeah.
I don't have that.
That's fine. Right. Admin report. I think it's just been continued update. Jens has started joining those calls just to help make sure the transition to next school year goes smoothly. Continue to just focus mostly on strategic planning, budgeting for next year, staffing, making sure that all those things are continuing. And they are, as you heard tonight. I will say that we do know that there is still the OUA
It's on my to-do list.
executive director review,
Yeah.
and that will happen before the end of the school year. So the executive committee is meeting on Monday.
Okay.
So
Time.
plenty of time. All right, academic officer update.
Yeah. Feels like a blur of we've had our last curriculum advisory committee meeting, I think right after our April board meeting. I was only able to be there for part of it, and so yeah, April 29th. But it went off, I think, without a hitch. I know that there was some feedback given, making sure that people know what the priorities are. We kind of tried to figure out what those are and then kind of give updates on all of the curriculum updates that are happening with REDAC training, ELA standards coming into focus again, math standards changing, how those are kind of impacted by what we've seen here at school. So it's it was a good meeting, and yeah, curriculum is done for the year. SEAC meets on Monday. So if you're interested, it's the last one. It was also featured in the room brief today. And yeah, that's been starting to wrap up and wind down. But it's really nice to see families get involved. I think that's a really great way, just to plug it again, of a really low time commitment. It's always online. Just being a part of these groups is helpful to our community in general. So
Can you remind us our family's part of curriculum advisory?
yep. The focus is to have a goal of 2/3 family, 1/3 staff. So it's not a requirement anymore. It used to be.
Okay.
It's not a requirement, but that's the goal that they're aiming for, is because they want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to hear about it. So
Mhm.
it's legitimately once a quarter, 3-4 times a year. So
And have we had consistent family membership?
yeah, there's been some consistent families throughout this year and also in just over the course of the last few years that I've been a part of it. I will say membership has declined for sure. Which concerns when we're thinking about curriculum and being involved. I think that's, a somewhat consistent thing we want to hear from like immersion is, how is the immersion process going? Things like that. We get a lot of those types of questions at conferences. And while this is a little bit more of a higher level of that, it's still important to be involved in. So again, I think it's a low time commitment and you get to hear a lot about what we're kind of doing. So.
Just wonder if there's a way to continue to publicize those at like the back to school nights and,
Mhm.
and things like that in a more prominent way. So. Great. All right, that brings us to new business. Director Lindner.
Yeah, so I have a personal conflict on Thursday that would make it almost impossible for me to attend. I can do it, but it's a financial expenditure to attend. So I was wondering if it is possible, given all the participants for the June board meeting, if you could move it to Wednesday, June 25th. And I understand that at this point we can't really make the decision because there are so many balls in the air right now still, everybody. But if we could, I would very much appreciate that.
I personally can make that work. I don't know.
I think I
Anyone-
personally can as well, but
We do, yeah.
I think we have 6 other people we need to check with.
Correct. I'm wondering how we can make that
Can we
move to,
try to check with or 7, the 3 absent board members and the 4 or 5, the 5 for 4 potential new members and see if that works for all of them. And tomorrow and Monday and talk about the executive committee on Monday.
I feel like, do we have to officially approve the moving of the date though?
Can that?
Yeah, but we can do that at committee of the whole.
Committee of the whole.
I don't think we can vote at committee of the whole.
Yeah, we can.
We can?
It's a public meeting.
Okay, great.
We try not to, but we can.
Okay. Great. Wonderful. So we'll make we don't need to you didn't make a motion, did you? Jen? Okay, perfect. Well, we will then just table that, check in with other people's schedules. Sounds like it could be a potential possibility.
Yeah, Jens can make the motion at the committee of the
Yeah,
whole
committee of
meeting,
the
but
whole.
we can kind of
Yep.
have an idea of what we're gonna do before that and schedule it.
Perfect. Okay. Of all the meetings, yeah, right?
No, I told him I am going on a trip with my friends a day later than everybody else, so I could make the meeting.
Oh, well,
But
that could work for
now
you as well.
Well, I already bought my plane ticket.
All right.
Just wanted to show my commitment.
You take it from my wife, okay?
Great. All right, any other final new business? All right,
I was going to tell everybody that we have been selected for a SPED comprehensive review. Oh, so that will be starting under the direction of Tammy Stahl. Most schools are chosen, it's like a bonus that we got chosen for a comprehensive review. Tammy has inquired to MDE why, and is kind of asking for their rubric. Why are we comprehensive and not just a regular review? So stay tuned for that.
okay, and when will that start? Next year? Or?
Yeah, it's the next school year. Starting July 1.
All right.
So good thing we got that SPED purchasing policy passed. Checking that box.
Yeah. All right, with no other new business to address, we will meet next on June 25th or 26th. We will be sure to
Mark your calendar.
publicly make the public aware of that. So, with that, we will adjourn this meeting at 8:20.